And the first thing I'm going to do is, Xavier, I want to kick it over to you if you have any important updates for the chapter that you would like to give before we get into the training material.
Hey, thanks, Bruce. Hey, guys, welcome everybody. I'm Xavier. I'm the president of the chapter. I just wanted to thank everybody for being here. We did it last week just to kick off, the agenda and stuff. But I just want to encourage everybody to join this stuff whenever possible. All it's going to do is help you to get better. You get to hear different points of view and different perspectives from more experienced officials who've been where you are, trying to learn, trying to get better. So just use it as a tool to get better. Other than that, our draft is next week, next Tuesday, our coaches draft. So it's a big day in our chapter. So we're all looking forward to that. Not much for me. Just happy to be here. And like Bruce said, if you have any questions or whatever, put them in the chat. And if we need to stop the presenter, we will. Thanks, Bruce.
All right, thank you. Okay, so tonight, as I mentioned, and I hope everybody can see the slide I'm sharing, we'll be covering, again, we're just going to do a very high level walkthrough again. This is kind of a refresher, hopefully, and also an introduction to some of the folks who are new to the Crew of 7 officials free kick mechanics. And we're also going to have Jeff Wasserman will be covering the common free kick fouls that we see and what the corresponding penalty enforcement is as well. And I want to remind you that if you have questions, please put them in the chat window and we will certainly get them answered. So let's, without further ado, we'll get into it. I will be covering the mechanics portion tonight. I do want to just have another reminder. I know I kind of put out a call for any crews that want to potentially kind of lead training. We might still have a week open, and if you're interested, I would highly encourage you. I got a few folks, but would like to see more people kind of volunteer to maybe lead a training session. So reach out to me offline after this training if you're interested. So all right, let's talk about free kick mechanics. I think we all know we use TAZO, 7-man crew of 7 officials mechanics. Fortunately, these mechanics have kind of tended over the last 4 or 5 years to more closely align with CCA crew of 7 officials mechanics as well. We're not 100%, but they are aligning, which I think is probably a good thing for the most part. But again, the final authority is the TAZO 7-man mechanics manual. Okay, so let's just start with the basic positioning on a free kick. What the positions are for the 7 officials, and we're going to, of course, we'll start from left and we'll move to right. So we're going to start with the back judge and the umpire. They're always going to be positioned on the kicking team's restraining line. And most of the time that will be the A40 unless it's relocated by penalty. We're going to have then the field judge and the side judge will be positioned on the receiving team's restraining line, which will be 10 yards beyond the kicking team's restraining line. Again, most of the time, again, unless we have a penalty, relocation is going to be at midfield at the 50-yard line. And then if you move back down to the goal line, this is where you're going to have your H and your L positioned on the goal line. And then our referee will be positioned about midway into the end zone, center of the field. He can move a little bit left, a little bit right, depending on what receiver might be in his way to get a better view. I see a lot of officials, not just our chapter, a lot of officials where that referee is actually on the inline or very close to the inline. I don't know if that's a college mechanic or a conference mechanic, or if just our high school officials are not lining up in the middle. But it does call for us to be in the middle. Obviously, based on the kick, we can adjust. But just wanted to say that, right from our mechanics, we should be lined up about 5 yards deep in the end zone. Now, let's talk about keys. So if you look at, we have a lot of keys listed up here where the 4 officials are, the UB, the S, and the F. Here's kind of your initial keys, and you're going to notice here that the side judge is going to be looking in, and remember we count the kicking team players, from your sideline into the middle of the field, so that number 1 receiver is not initially covered at the kick, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But the side judge here, and again, this assumes that you have kind of an equal 5 and 5 on each side of the kicker. You could have a 6 and 4, obviously. But that side judge is going to take the number 2 and the number 3. Those are his initial keys at the kick. The umpire here is going to be looking in to take the number 4 and number 5. but also has primary action on the kicker as well. So this is your initial keys here at the kick that you will focus on when the kick is made. And then on the bottom side, very similar. The number 1 is not going to be initially covered, but you'll have the field judge looking in here at the number 2 and the number 3, and then the back judge picking up the number 4 and the number 5. So these are our basic free kick positions and our keys per the TASL 7 officials mechanic. So now we have a kick. Here's again, let's assume we have a kick that's going to go beyond the 50-yard line. So in this case, the umpire and the back judge, when it's safe to do so, are going to banana in. We call it banana in, kind of somewhere inside the numbers into the hash mark, and kind of set up position there so that they can kind of watch that action right here in the middle of this field in their respective areas. The S and the F are going to drift downfield, maybe up to 10 yards, and then react accordingly based on how deep this kick goes. H and L, you definitely want to stay on the goal line until you know it's safe to get off it. Same with the R. You want to stay where you are until you know it's safe to actually move forward or move back, depending on where the kick goes. So let's just kind of talk again about free kicks. In general, these are things that everybody, all 7 officials, should be thinking about. So first and foremost, we're going to take those positions as we just showed on the kickoff diagram, and we're going to complete a lot of our kind of pre-kick duties, and we're going to kind of go through that for each of the groups of officials on what are you going to do as you're getting ready for that free kick. Every official should be alert for legal touching, touchbacks, kicks beyond the end line and near the sidelines. And then we always want to wind the clock. Certainly the covering official wants to wind the clock when it's necessary and appropriate. We should always be thinking about onside kicks first, and then anticipate every kick could be returned for a TD. It's just always something to remember in your head. You definitely want to know and stay with your keys during the entire down. You also, I would say, entire play. You also want to be alert for fair catch signals on any kick. You can really be a crew saver if you see an invalid fair catch signal given by the non-receiver, or if you see the receiver do one and maybe someone else didn't see it. So this is where having 7 folks out there can really help. Now, if we do have a touchback, we want to kind of move to the field to stop any late or illegal action, but we don't want to ignore any players behind us, just to shut down anything that, players might, sometimes we know we get a little extracurricular activity even on a fair catch and the touchback. So we want to get there, make a presence to kind of shut that down. Any questions so far, Shane or Xavier? All right, I'll take that as a note.
None that haven't already been addressed.
Okay, good. So now let's kind of move into kind of position responsibilities on a free kick. So the U and the B, who again, as you can see up there, are positioned on the kicking team's restraining line. But before we get there, we're responsible for kind of clearing our sideline from Team A's goal line all the way up to where we're going to be. We're also responsible for that kicking team's restraining line, and we also want to be very alert for short free kicks. We're also counting our Team A players, and we're going to give a signal. We're also, the back judge, just so you know, is prior to the ready play, he's going to be the person out there that's going to be giving the ball to the kicker. So when he's out there, we want to see if the U, the F, and the S are ready for kickoff. If so, as he's out there, we want to signal to the R that everyone's in position. We want to give the ball to the kicker and give the instructions to the kicker. Specifically, make sure you mention do not kick the ball if it's falling off the tee, and do not kick the ball until the referee. When I used to give the ball, I like to point to the referee until that person blows the whistle. And then you'll move to the sideline position, and then once the referee sees that, we will actually mark the ball ready for play. So you want to make sure, again, that all Team A players have complied with the 9-yard mark requirement. So that means all of them have at some point been inside the top of the numbers, that 9-yard marks. When we blew the ready for play, they can move out after that. And then also that they are within 5 yards of their restraining line after the ready for play signal. And that the farthest back somebody can be is, a Team A player can be, is, other than the kicker, is having a foot 5 yards behind the kicking team restraining line on that nearest line. They can't have just their hands on it and their feet farther back. They have to actually have at least 1 foot on that line. They can be anywhere in between, but the farthest back they can be would be to have that foot on the line. The U, you're going to have the action on the kicker, so you're going to be wanting to keep an eye on the kicker until he's gone, safely gone 5 yards downfield, that there's no illegal action performed on him. And on any kick that's going beyond the 50-yard line, as I mentioned earlier, and you can see in that little graphic up here in the top right, you're going to move to the near hash mark and officiate using the hash mark as a guideline. You're observing that action that's mainly toward the center of the field, and observing some off-ball action. If you see legal touching, it's fine to go ahead and wind the clock. And then on long returns that may potentially get returned for a touchdown, back judge, you are responsible for Team A's goal line. You're not the only one, but you will actually try to get to the goal line as well. And I think I have a good example video of that I'll show you later. Okay, let's move again, left to right. Now we're talking about the field judge and the side judge. We're going to count Team B players and signal. We're also responsible for the Team B restraining line. So we're going to be watching for offside by Team B, any first touching potentially by Team A, any kick catch interference by Team A. And then again, always should be focusing on and catch any fair catch signals, valid or invalid, on pooch kicks and deeper short kicks that are well short of the line judge and the headline judge. You also want to know if that if that kick is kicked directly into the ground right off the tee, and it's going to be kind of a short pooch kick, because that's important to know, especially because that would still maintain KCI protection. We don't count the ball hitting the ground in that scenario as basically eliminating the KCI protections for the potential receivers. And then you want to move downfield and maintain cushion. So you do this push-pull mechanism that you heard. So you don't want to go more than 10 yards. And then you kind of want to read the return as you're focusing on your key, so that you don't get too close to your H. You guys maintain that push-pull kind of mechanic based on where the return is going. And remember, you're going to have to reverse field on a long return, and you're going to have responsibility from the A 2-yard line to the teammate goal line. And you'll hear later that the headline judge and the line judge actually have forward progress all the way from the goal line they're on, all the way to the other end of the field to the team A2, and then they'll hand it off to you. After the kick, you want to help clean up the area and retrieve old ball, bring in a new ball from your sideline, I would say, when it's safe to do so. If you've got, your priority really is making sure that no chippiness is going on and the players are actually separating. Okay, now moving down to the headline judge and the line judge's free kick responsibilities for mechanics. We're going to count the receiving team players and signal to the HLR. We're responsible for the goal line and the pylon in our end zone. Once we have a kick and maybe a return, we're going to be watching for holding, clips, any other kind of illegal blocks, whether illegal blindside block, block in the backs, things like that. And then also illegal wedges. So again, based on where this kick goes, if this kick goes deep into the side zone on the H side, the L, you can kind of help clean up in, kind of behind the play, depending on which side of the field the kick is on. Or if it's on your side, you're going to be kind of observing the area just in front of the runner until the runner's threatened, and you probably have to close that circle in on what you're focusing on. Again, the H and the L are responsible for that forward progress until they hand it off to the F or the S at the A2. So a lot of field to cover, and but you do hand it off to the F and S if they do return it inside into the A2 or inside. Another thing that our mechanics don't really say, but I think I borrowed this presentation, this picture from a prior presentation that somebody was giving, and I think it's a good thing. You can see on the kind of alignment of the receiving team here, it's kind of symmetrical. But if this is the H or the L up here at the top where these three red arrows are, these are kind of the guys you want to be focusing on as that kick is made, because these are potential receivers if it comes to your side of the field. And I thought this was kind of a good kind of pointer. And same for the official. You don't see him in the frame here on the bottom side, would be looking for, just kind of flip that. It would be looking for that guy closest to him on the sideline there, this guy up here at the A30, and then obviously the guy in the middle as well, since he's kind of straddling both sides of the field. So this is what you should be looking at, in addition to knowing where this kick is coming as well. So you're going to have to be able to, kind of focus your eyes on a lot of things. Main thing, you want to know where this kick is going. So that's going to actually better help you know where you're going to be focusing in on who potentially would be returning this or receiving the kick. Referee. So we're going to count Team B players and signal. We're also, as I mentioned earlier, when it's appropriate, we're going to signal the ready for play. And then you're responsible actually for ruling if 4 players are on each side of the kicker when the ball is kicked, as well as potentially illegal wedge formations. Yes, the U and the B and perhaps the F and the S could probably catch if there were 4 more players, but it'd have to be obvious they're not at the best angle to do that. And that's where the referee kind of gets that straight on view, could actually probably rule on that as well, because he's got a little bit better straight on angle. Once we have the kick caught and we're starting to return, you want to observe that action in front of the runner. And then, but also, if we have a kick that is kicked deep, we want to make sure that if potentially it's touched in the field of play by Team B and rolls into the end zone, we definitely want to make sure that we're in position to rule on if it goes out of the back of the end zone over that end line. Remember, you have the H and the L on the goal line, so they're covering that. Your primary responsibility, if needed, is to rule on anything close to that end line. All right, any questions, Shane or Xavier, before we go on?
Bruce, I got a couple of comments, not really questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know earlier we talked about the test. I guess the test mechanics have the referee kind of in the middle, 5 yards. So this is one of the situations where it's probably beneficial to be at the end line, because the referee doesn't rule on anything from the goal line, and if the ball goes back there touched, then the only person to rule on it is going to be the referee, because the short wings are going to hold the goal line for forward progress. The other comment that I had was, as far as we mentioned the kicking restraining lines, everybody needs to be within the 5 yards, with an exception of the kicker. If the kicker does go further back than the 5 yards, he has to be the one to kick it. I know that some schools have this kind of, they try to get cute and they get 2 kickers, and it's fine if they're both within the 5 yards. If one of the kickers is beyond the 5 yard mark, then he has to be the one to kick it.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with the comment. I mean, I think the referee, if he starts in the middle, but it can judge the kick, there's nothing wrong with moving back to the end line if he thinks it's going to be a deep kick. I have no problem with that at all. And to your point, just being ready to make any rulings. You're absolutely right. So the only person that can be beyond those 5 yards is the kicker. Hence why we call them the kicker. If they're not the kicker, and it would be an illegal formation.
Hey, Bruce, just to chime in here. I was told several times by clock operators in some stadiums that have bad lighting. I used to always start at the end line, and I was told they couldn't see my signal. So what I started to do was I moved into the middle of the end zone, gave the signal, then would move back.
Okay. Again, the biggest thing I'm worried about is making sure that when necessary, that the R can make the rulings involving the end line. So however we do it, that we get there and make sure that we're in position to do it, I'm happy with. Okay, let's talk about short kick. I know in some other mechanics, we have this concept of an alternate short kick mechanic. We do not have that in 7-man. So this is the only approved short kick mechanic that we can use per our current mechanics. So in a short kick, this is where we're expecting potentially an onside kick. This is where we're going to move the H and the L up from the goal line, actually halfway between the kicking team restraining line and the receiving team restraining line. So you now have 6 officials boxed in up here to kind of help rule on a potential short kick or an onside kick. You'll see that the referee here is going to actually come in, and we'll talk more about it, take a position a certain number of yards behind the deepest receiver. No longer will be in the end zone. So again, what's required for all 7 officials on a potential short kick? First thing to remember is that the referee is the one who determines when we're going to use this mechanic. We shouldn't assume it. It's fine to get on your radio and ask the referee, hey, do you think we should go in short kick? That's perfectly fine. But it is ultimately the referee's decision to do that. And as I said, we'll all take those basic positions that were shown on the diagram, and you can see a smaller one. up there in the upper right. This is where we have to be hyper focused and alert for illegal touchings, dropping our beanbag when necessary, and being prepared to rule on possession. I think we've all suffered through this. This is a real pressure cooker play with only a couple seconds of action, and so it's important that we're being alert and we're ready for anything that can happen. You also have to be alert for action at the sidelines and coverage if the ball is kicked deep. It is possible that, we go to short kick mechanic, but they do kick it deep. So we just have to be ready for that as well. And then be ready to start the clock when the ball is legally touched in the field of play. So now that's just like we did with the normal free kick mechanic. We're going to talk about position-wise, what does each group of officials do for short kicks. Same as before, you're still going to be the U and the B. You're still going to be responsible for clearing your sideline to team A's goal line, and you are responsible for kicking team's restraining line, being alert for short free kicks. This is where we're going to get probably a little bit more focused on, any team A players coming across that restraining line if we do have a short kick made, because we may not call a flag if somebody's got, a body part or something across the line on a normal deep kick, but that might be the difference between them getting to the ball before the receiving team. So we definitely want to treat it more as a plane. If they break that plane before the ball's kicked and it's a short kick, then we definitely want to be able to rule on it and have a flag down. We're still counting the teammate players and giving a signal. And the back judge, again, similar to before, before they're ready for play, you're going to check if all the other officials here are ready. Then we're going to signal to the R, give the ball to the kicker and the instructions, and then move to the sideline. And then when ready, the R will mark the ball ready for play. Have a beanbag in your hand. These, again, we don't have a lot of time to react. So if you have it in your hand, it's kind of easier to use it if you need it. And make sure, again, just like a regular free kick, we have to ensure that they comply with the 9-yard marks and are within 5 yards of the restraining line after the kickoff was made ready for play. After the ball was made ready for play, not the kickoff. We're officiating Team A's restraining line, as I mentioned, as a plane. Be alert for kicking team members beyond that plane prior to the ball being kicked, and it's a short kick. We want to observe action by the kicking team on your side, blocking and or touching the ball prior to it becoming eligible by rule. Remember, if they onside kick it, unless Team B touches it before it goes 10 yards, they're not eligible to legally touch the ball. All right, let's move to the H and the L. So we're going to count receiving team players and give a signal. We're going to take that position, as I said, midway between Team A and Team B's restraining line. We're also going to have a beanbag in our hand so that we can be ready to drop it when necessary. We're going to do the same. We're going to observe touching of the ball by either team, noting when and where the ball was touched. We're going to observe action by the kicking team on our side, respective sides, specifically for blocking and or touching the ball before it becomes eligible by rule. If you remember, we can, and I think Jeff has a good example video of this, but Team A cannot block the Team B player until they can legally touch the ball. Now, know whether the ball is kicked into the ground or the air. Again, that makes it's an important thing to know, because if it's kicked directly into the ground and pops up just one time, then we still have KCI protection. If it's kicked to the ground and bounces on the ground a couple times, then we obviously don't have KCI protection. And same as before, we are responsible for forward progress from the A2 to the Team A goal line. Which is actually, let me go back to that. You're actually responsible for forward progress from the A2 to the Team A goal line. So it's kind of reversed from the S and the F from a normal free kick. You actually will now go and take the A2 into the goal line, where the S and F, as you'll see on the next slide, are actually going to take forward progress all the way to the A2 before they would hand it off to the H and the L. Okay, moving on to the field judge, side judge. Again, counting Team B players and signaling. Take position on Team B's restraining line, and you are responsible for that line. Have a beanbag in your hand, just like the other 4 officials that are in the box there with you, so that you can drop it when needed. And again, you're looking for touching of the ball by either team, noting when and where it was touched. You're going to look at action by the kicking team on your side, including blocking or touching the ball prior to becoming eligible by rule. And then know, again, just as important, know whether the ball was kicked into the ground or the air. And now this is where that reversing is. You're going to be responsible for forward progress all the way to the A2, and then you'll hand that off to the H and the L. Referee probably has the more easier responsibility on this mechanic. He's going to be counting Team B players and signal, given the signal they're ready for play signal when appropriate. And then responsible, again, still for ruling if 4 players are on each side of the kicker when the ball is kicked. And as I mentioned earlier, you're going to take a position slightly behind and to the side of the deepest receiver. And be aware that you still have the goal line, inline, the end zone, and the inline responsibility. So if they do kick it deep, that's a lot of stuff on the referee to try to take responsibility for and rule on. But given that you have all 6 of your other officials up there in the box, there really is no one left but you to do it. All right, before I jump into some video examples, any questions, Shane or Xavier or Jeff?
The questions have pretty much been handled, but I do think that one thing just kind of popped up. There was, the terminology of the onside kicking mechanic being called short kick mechanic. I think it's important for us to remember for crews that go back and forth from 5-man to 7-man, that they do have that alternate short kick mechanic in 5-man, but not in 7, just to make sure that we don't get that mixed in with 7-man mechanics.
Yep, completely agree. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Got some good video examples of that. So Xavier, Jeff, Shane, if these videos aren't playing well, let me know and I'll see what I can do. But I got the first example here, and I'm just going to let it play. And just as a general comment, there may be some other fouls on this, but this is more really mechanically focused than anything. So I'm not really trying to call out any fouls here that they missed or didn't miss. It's really more to get you to think about mechanically, is the crew doing, what the mechanics manual say? So let me go ahead and kick this one off. And I'm just going to let it play. Okay, I hope that people immediately noticed a problem mechanically here. There must have been a penalty that relocated the Team A restraining line from the 40 to the 35. Don't know what it is, doesn't matter. But for some reason, we still see our U and our B up on the 40-yard line. They are 5 yards, and not only that, I mean the F and the S as well are 10 yards farther down at the 50-yard line, which is way out of position. So this crew just, I don't know, had a moment where they didn't figure it out and stayed on the 40. And this is a 7-man crew, because you can see you'll see the other 2 officials 10 yards beyond at the 50-yard line. I'll play it again here. So there's 4 guys there. Somebody should have recognized that they were out of position and corrected it. So if I stop it, I know it's probably blurry, but there is an official standing on the 50 and at the bottom of the field as well. So again, don't be afraid to speak up. If people are out of position, stop and get in the right position. We're very lucky that this wasn't an onside kick, because we would have been a little out of position. Did that play okay, Xavier and Shane?
No, it was choppy and blurry.
Yeah, it's pretty choppy.
Okay, well, I'm doing my best. Okay, here's another play. What's that? Let's go ahead and play this. I'll let it play through. Looks like our officials are in the correct position here. So we see a return right up the middle here. I want you to pay attention to the back judge here on the hash hustle by that official on the top of the screen on the sideline, and this back judge for trying to keep up with the forward progress and getting down there and making a ruling. You got the field judge down here kind of cleaning up the backwards action. We did have some action on the backside. Don't know if the flag was thrown because those officials kind of covering that were not in position to see it. And I'll stop it when it happens. I think you're going to see it right here around the 45. Some guy, actually, believe it or not, the kicking team player is going to take a cheap shot at one of the return players. But this was meant to highlight great job by the back judge hustling to get to that goal line, and that side judge on the top of the field getting to the goal line as well. Okay, I'm going to let this one play through, and then we'll talk about it as well. This is more about, again, we talked about it, that we don't have an alternate short kick mechanic. And also, as the sideline officials, don't get yourself into danger. Don't rush into the danger zone. And this official was very lucky that nothing happened to him. So you can see, clearly did not start on the goal line. Was up there. That's not. But if you notice, I'll play it again. He's right kind of where the ball lands, close to the sideline, the receiver there. He's got a ton of players come area. Would have been better for him to have stayed on the goal line behind the play and be rule on the sideline. Again, very fortunate that with all of that action there, nothing happened. You can see, again, didn't even back up, for example. Lots of people running around there. So again, we do not have an alternate short kick mechanic in 7-man. Should have been on the goal line and working his way up, staying behind the play, keeping the play in front of him so he could rule on the sideline. I think he would have been in a safer position as well. Lucky he didn't get hurt. Okay, I'm going to let this one play, and then we'll talk about it as well. As the ball is kicked, try to notice where everyone's positioned, even the downfield officials. So I hope that wasn't too grainy, too choppy. But what you can see here is you actually have your H and your L, again, at the 15-yard line, which is not a mechanic. We don't have an alternate short. You should have been on the goal line. And also, this official is, again, really close to the action. It's like he's got a receiver behind him and a receiver in front of him. Better to have just stayed on the goal line. You can get that out of bounds spot. There is no mechanic that puts you above the goal line that is approved for 7-man officials. Another kind of just mechanical thing, I want you to watch this video, and we're going to focus on the back judge, the line judge, and the field judge. These guys, let me play it, and you can just see it. You'll see what I'm talking about. More so the back judge than anybody. I mean, you see that? I think he was on the field and ran in front of the guy trying to return the kick just before he had this. Yes, it's a short kick, so he doesn't have to banana in, but really should have just turned and looked at the action. I don't know why he was running. We had 3 guys, 3 officials, all kind of bunched up in one area, and I don't know why the back judge actually, he runs in front of the line judge, and actually almost gets in the way of recovery. So mechanically, remember, there's no need to go downfield in this case. You just turn and pivot, and you can look in, watch your keys. Okay, one more here. This is just kind of more of is it a mechanical issue? Maybe not, but this was such a kind of an egregious thing by the crew. I did want to show it, and maybe you've seen it already, but this is going to be a player giving himself up after the play. So the head linesman wound the clock. Now, we can make an argument here. Did he catch the ball in the field of play? Did he not? I think if it's that close, I want to put him in the end zone. And he's giving an invalid signal catch. Yes, the ball's not dead yet, but that is once that happens, the play is shut down. And since the ball's declared dead in the end zone, and if we're going to assume that the kick put it in there, and we're going to do a touchback. But you can see that these officials let this play out, and the receiver runs the ball back to the 5-yard line because, hey, I signaled. Yeah, it's unorthodox, but by rule, if they give a fair catch signal, even after they receive it, we're shutting it down as if it's a fair catch. There's a lot of kind of deliberation. I don't see. I mean, hopefully they're on the radio. I think I'd like some guys to talk more about this. The H did not throw a beanbag at the half-yard line or the 1 yard to indicate he had momentum, which would be, he could probably sell that a little bit better if he had done that. And if he had done that and we had the fair catch, then we're just going to put the ball at the momentum spot. But in this case, they didn't have momentum, and they ignored the invalid fair catch signal, which was given after the receiver had the ball. So pretty big faux pas, cost these guys about 20 yards of position. So just something to think about. If you ever have a fair catch after reception, we're going to shut it down. Okay, any questions before we move on to the penalty enforcement stuff with Jeff?
Hey, Bruce, one thing during the weekly game reviews last year that our colleagues discussed a lot was when you're a wing or on the sidelines and free kicks, you want to be back towards the coaching box and give yourself a lot of room to officiate for your safety, and also helps clear the sidelines. I agree with that. And I noticed in a lot of these films, the officials are right on the sideline. Does that make sense?
You're right. I mean, it does make sense, and I think that's good advice. I should have probably brought it up. The mechanics manuals don't say you have to be 1 yard off, a half yard off, or on the back. But on the back is definitely going to give you, first of all, it's going to be a little safer potentially, especially if you have receivers that are close to the sideline. I would agree with that. Okay, without further ado, Jeff, I will go ahead and stop sharing. And I think you want to share your slides, correct?
I will do my best here. Can you see that?
Not yet.
Try it again. How about that?
Looks like it's coming through for me. Hopefully it is for everybody else.
All right.
Looks good.
All right. I'm going to go a few slides on enforcement and rules that are unique to the free kicks. Go over a bunch of videos, and hopefully we'll get through it pretty quick. All right. Again, taking some elements of my enforcement lecture. All members of a crew are responsible for proper enforcement. Every official should know the rules, penalties, and enforcement procedures. It's not just the white hat's responsibility. You don't want to rush penalty enforcement, especially on free kicks. You often have multiple fouls during free kicks. One may be during the kick, one may be during the return. The crew is spread out. Your O2O devices may not work as well because of the distance between the officials. The offended team options are not going to be pretty obvious. For example, if there's a kick out of bounds, someone's got to get to the coach, let them know the options. Teammate fouls can be enforced at the previous spot or the team be dead ball spot. So again, that's more for the coach to have to decide, and you need to sometimes coach the coach on what they're going to do because they've got a lot in their mind and they may not be thinking straight, so you may have to help them out. And your crew is distracted by ball mechanics. Your SRF may be going in and getting the ball. Your U's trying to get to the succeeding spot, and there's just a lot going on. So it's not uncommon for mistakes to occur here. Have the wrong team for the foul or have more than one foul and the white hat not even know it for a minute or two into the process. So just be aware. Again, when you report your fouls to the white hat, describe the foul in detail. You want to help the credibility of the call and help the coach coach their kids. So it helps for them to know exactly what happened, which team fouled, the player number, location, play and ball status, especially important during kicks, because again, you can have a foul during a kick, during the return. It all matters from enforcement. and the crew should all agree on enforcement. If not, blow a whistle, get on your O2O, make sure everybody agrees. You may be the one guy out of 7 people who got it right. So don't just assume you're wrong. If you really think you know something that the rest of the crew doesn't know, make sure you pipe in. Penalties for fouls that occurred during the kick are enforced from the previous spot, which is the basic spot in free kicks, with some exceptions. So KCI, which we'll look at in more detail later, that is a spot foul. Either can be 10 or 15-yard penalty. There are other things that go on there as well, which we'll look at. For teammate fouls other than KCI, may be enforced from the previous spot or the team B dead ball spot. Or where ball is placed after a touchback. That's going to be pretty rare, but it could occur. Team B player who blocks after a fair catch signal and does not touch the ball. That is a 10 or 15-yard spot foul. They changed it to 10 about 2 years back, I think it was, maybe last year. But it could still be 15 yards if it's targeting or a personal foul on the block. Penalties for fouls that occur during the return will be enforced using the 3-and-1 principle as always, with the end of the run being the basic spot. An exception, again, a touchback, the 20-yard line being the basic spot. And want to emphasize, blocking below the waist is not permitted by either team during any kick play anywhere on the field. Okay, after the ready, all teammate players must have been between the 9-yard marks, as Bruce mentioned, and ball can only be relocated after timeout or subsequent kick. I guess there's some plays a few years back where the kicker would, after the ready, go up to the ball, run it over to the other hash, and kick it quickly to try to gain an advantage. Well, they can't do that any longer. That is a dead ball foul for an illegal kick if they try to do that. Teammate must have at least 4 players on each side of the kicker when the ball is kicked. Only teammate kicker permitted more than 5 yards behind their straining line after the ready and before the ball is kicked. I've got a good video example of that. Other players only need 1 foot on or beyond the line. So they can have a foot if it's normally, if the ball is being kicked at the A40, let's say it hasn't been relocated. So every member other than the player who kicks the ball has to have at least 1 foot within the 35 to the 40-yard line. All right, so they don't have to have both. They just have to have one, or they can have just 1 foot barely on the line. That'll do, and we'll look at that later. When the ball is kicked, each teammate player except the kicker and holder must be behind the ball. Teammate can touch or recover free kick only after it breaks and remains beyond the Team B restraining line or touches a Team B player. Teammate player also cannot block opponents until eligible to touch the ball. I think we're all aware of that. We'll look at some videos, and Bruce mentioned it. And the ball, while it is still a kick, caught or recovered by a player of the kicking team, becomes dead. It cannot be advanced. So if a Team B player catches it, then fumbles it, yes. If Team A recovers it, it is a live ball, and they will continue. But if the status of the ball is still a kick, when Team A gains possession, immediately becomes dead, we should blow a whistle. Going on, I think this is the last slide of rules. Free kick untouched by Team B that touches ground and end zone becomes dead immediately. Got some good video to look at and discuss that. And a lot of times, by the way, when this occurs, the receiver may not know what to do. They often get confused. Is the ball going to go into the end zone? Is it going to stay in the field of play? They'll hesitate, and that's when bad things happen. So just H&L and R, stay alert when that's happening. If the ball touches the ground in the end zone, becomes dead right away. If it doesn't, just watch your possession and be ready for anything. Kicker may not be blocked until they have advanced 5 yards. The ball touches the player, ground, or an official. Illegal wedge formation, defined as 2 or more Team B players. It used to be 3, but it's been 2 now for a few years. Shoulder to shoulder within 2 yards of each other. It needs to be intentional. So if they drop back accidentally, didn't see each other, and happen to be close to each other, we don't want to call that. And no contact is necessary. This is not a contact foul. Once they form an illegal wedge, we should have a flag. And it's going to be enforced 15 yards from the spot of the foul, or behind that if the Team B dead ball spot is behind it. teammate player out of bounds during the kick, not during the return. That was changed by an edit a few years ago. But during the kick, he may not return unless blocked or returns immediately. We've got a video to look at that's relevant to that. Kick out of bounds between goal lines untouched by Team B is a foul. And as you know, the enforcement options would be 5 yards from the previous spot with a re-kick. You can go to the dead ball spot plus 5 yards, or 30 yards beyond Team A's restraining line at the hash mark. All right, so this isn't the same as if we've got a fair catch inside the 25-yard line where the ball goes midfield unless it's relocated. This is going to go to the nearest hash where it goes out of bounds. Whether you do the 30 yards or you do the dead ball spot plus 5, it's going to be at the hash. Fair catch rules apply. It's going to be dead at the spot or again within the 25-yard line if caught after a valid signal. If it's an invalid signal, it's going to be dead at the spot. It's going to be spotted at that hash. No advance. Team B player more than 2 steps after valid, invalid, fair catch signal. If they take more than 2 steps, it would be a dead ball foul. Bruce showed a video where player did a fair catch that was invalid in the end zone, but then he took off. We should have had a flag on that for dead ball foul. And again, no block below the waist by either team anywhere on the field. All right, let's just look at KCI before the videos. So a Team B player must be given unimpeded opportunity to catch the kick. Before receiver touches the ball, Team A player cannot enter area defined by the width of the receiver's shoulders and 1 yard in front. So if he's off to the side and not making contact, we've got no foul. It is interference if contact occurs before or simultaneous to the receiver touching the ball. So if you've got a bam-bam play, unless there's an obvious time between the two, we should throw a flag. And the receiver protection ends when the kick touches the ground, unless the kick was driven directly into the ground, immediately strikes once and goes into the air. Bruce discussed that. Any Team B player who muffs or touches a free kick after a valid fair catch signal still has protection until they no longer have the opportunity to complete the catch. If a teammate player is blocked into the receiver by an opponent, there is no foul. And the enforcement is 15-yard penalty from the spot of the foul, enforced in B25. If foul occurs behind the B25, that's going to be pretty rare, but could occur. And player made valid fair catch signal. Succeeding spot for foul behind goal line with touchback, even more rare. And it may occur with targeting and be enforced 15 yards from where the foul occurs or from Team B dead ball spot. But let's discuss that for a second because it's pretty interesting. So if you don't have targeting and you just have KCI, it's going to be a 15-yard penalty from the spot where the spot of the foul occurred. I think we all know that. If you have targeting, however, it's going to be KCI with targeting. And if Team B, so usually Team B may not get possession in this case, right? The player is going to get walloped, the ball is going to be free. Team B can get the ball, run it downfield 30, 40 yards, whatever. Okay, if it's just targeting if it's just KCI without targeting, the only option Team B has is to decline the penalty, decline the KCI, and take the ball 30, 40 yards downfield. On the other hand, if targeting occurred, they get the dead ball spot plus 15 yards. So it's important to distinguish that. Plus, the player will get disqualified, but they get the 15 yards added to the dead ball spot as an option if it ended up downfield. Any questions so far?
Yeah, I think, Jeff, just one clarification, and maybe I misheard it, but if on a free kick, if a receiver gives an invalid fair catch signal and he catches the kick, in that case, we would still give him to the 25-yard line there's an approved ruling on that.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. That was my bad.
No worries.
Okay. Any other question?
I think we've got them all answered. We're good.
All right. Let's look at some videos. And all my computers had a problem with crashing during some of these videos. If it does, we'll have to reboot the computer. I'll have to kind of reboot PowerPoint, but it only takes a few seconds. So I apologize in advance if that occurs. All right, so here we've got a video. The question is this a legal catch recovery by Team A? Hopefully the videos will not buffer too much for you. All right, I think I don't even have to show that again. I think you can all see here's our teammate player. He's gone 10 yards from the restraining line. There were no blocks, by the way, in this before the ball went past the 50-yard line, so we don't have any issues with that. And you can see there's no receiver in the vicinity. So you've got a legal catch recovery by team A. So that's a pretty easy one. Watch it one more time, and then we'll go to the next one. And let's see if I can move it along here. Here the ball is crossing the 50, and you can see there's been no block by team A, so we've got no illegal blocks. There's nobody in position to catch that ball from team B, so we're going to be good. So it's going to be team A's ball at the B48. All right. Do we have kick, catch, interference on play, or anything else going on? Let's take a look. How's the quality, by the way? Is it coming okay?
Well, I think for me, it's looking fine, but I think everyone's mileage might vary based on network connections, but so far so good for me.
All right. Hopefully, assuming it's grainy for some folks, I'll try to stop it on the replay where it's relevant there. Okay, so we got a couple things going on here. So first of all, if you look at the second member of the kicking team from the bottom, so that'll be our number 2. He's not quite on the line, right? So it's subtle and it would be nitpicky. This is certainly worth a warning, but he is not on the line. So he is more than 5 yards from the restraining line. Keep going. At the time of the kick, and this is a short kick, so we're going to treat the restraining line like a plane, and you can see our number 2 player down at the bottom, he is definitely number 2, meaning he's the number 2 by position, not by jersey number. He's clearly past the restraining line. Okay, so that's a foul for offside. Should have a flag on that. And now to complete the trifecta, he's going to go ahead and make contact with our receiver before the ball arrives. So we've got KCI right there at the 50-yard line. All right. So is our formation legal? Let's take a look. I don't even think I need to go any further in this one. Okay, you can see the whole team is lined up with their feet beyond first of all, they're kicking from the 20, so this must have been after safety, but so that probably threw them off a little bit. But everybody's feet are beyond the 15, the A15. So this is an illegal formation. Play it out. Okay, nothing else going on there. Okay, do we have KCI in this play? Let's take a look. All right. So to begin with, do we have illegal formation? Yeah, we do. We don't want to be too nitpicky. Some guys after the ready were a little bit beyond 5 yards, but nothing you'd want to do anything about. At the kick, okay, so we're going to have a short kick here. You know, is somebody offside? Yeah. Okay, so we got six players in this side of the kicker, so 6, 5, 4, 3. So our number 3 player by position, he's breaking that plane when the kick is made. Our 2 and 1 players are close, or they're certainly close. Maybe the one guy's offside, but I don't know if it can be I know it's easy to see here. And we certainly have KCI. We've got a player in position to catch the ball, and he is not given the opportunity to catch it. And you'll notice that the guys who were offside or close to being offside, they're downfield. I mean, it makes a big difference if you don't treat that restraining line like a plane. All right, next video. All right, well, this is a pretty famous play from a high school perspective here in Texas. This was a championship game, and let's take a look at this. Okay, so a bunch of things going on here. Okay, formation looks legal. Got nothing going on here. Okay, we've got an onside kick. Are we all onside? Yep, looks like we're okay there. It's close, but I don't think we're going to be that technical about it with our helmets being over perhaps. Now, the ball has not gone 10 yards here, right? The kick has gone about 6, 7 yards or so. And our player, now, by the way, if 27, this is Allen, the team on the left, if 27 from the receiving team had initiated the contact, so if he wasn't going for the ball and went right at the teammate players, okay, he's not going to get that same protection which we're discussing, but looks to me like he's going for the ball. He gets walloped, so we're going to have a flag there, and that's appropriate. And look who gets possession of the ball. A member of the kicking team. Team A gets possession. All right. So we've got a foul for an illegal block. Okay, the enforcement. Does Team B, what are Team B's options? And the only option they have is to take it at the previous spot and do a re-kick with a 5-yard penalty. So that would have been a big play here because the kicking team would have had another chance at this since they ended up with possession. Instead, this crew, if I remember correctly, they gave the receiving team the ball at the spot that it was received, and they tacked on 5 yards, which really, if they had ended up with possession, that would have been a different story, but they didn't have that option. So this was enforced incorrectly. All right, so let's see what about foul and enforcement on this play. All right, well, I think we can all see we're going to have a KCI here, but what else might we have here? Okay, so we've got a valid fair catch signal. And he gets walloped without the opportunity to catch the kick. And the question is this targeting? I'm going to say yes. It's not a crown of the helmet, but it looks like he's making contact at the head or neck. That could be argued, I think, because the player is turning his head. But I think based upon the nature of the contact, I think targeting would be the best call here. Now, it's hard to see in this video, but a member of the kicking team does get possession, all right? So the team B did not end up with the ball at the end of the play, so they won't have an option other than take the 15-yard penalty from the spot of the foul. If, however, Team B had recovered that ball and we had targeting, they would have been able to take it the 15 yards from the dead ball spot, which would have been around the B43. So I hope that's pretty clear. Any questions so far?
I think we got them covered, Jeff.
All right. Question about formation here. Are they offside? Let's see. All right. So we've got one potential kicker who is certainly more than 5 yards. Everybody else is within 5 yards. We're good here. But who's going to kick the ball? Not our player who is more than 5 yards downfield. So that's an illegal formation. And we've got this guy, the number 3 on the other side of the field. He's offside as well. So we should have had a flag on that, considering. Now, the only thing I'll say to that is the kick is going to the opposite side of the field. All right. If someone didn't have a flag on that for being offside, not the biggest thing in the world, right? It's not like they had an advantage here. However, it is by the rule that is a foul. But we've got, at the very least, we've got illegal formation, since the player who is more than 5 yards downfield is not the player who kicked the ball. All right, next. All right. So the question is this player on the defense, or on TB, I'm sorry, is this player on TB offside? Technically speaking, he is. His foot is a little bit beyond the restraining line. This probably could have been a good warning, but yeah, a foul was called. Can't argue with it. And is there any other foul in this play, and what's the implications of that? So we got to get called offside on the receiving team. Here's our return. Looks to me we had a grab and twist face mask foul there. I'm not sure that was called. Might have been, but I can't see any flag down. So where's this going to be enforced from? So we've got offside on team B. Okay, that's a foul during the kick. So the only option is to go back in previous spot. They're going to accept the penalty, and they probably are. They're going to re-kick it from the 45, the 845. All right. Crew got a little confused here, but they eventually did get it right. All right.
Yeah, Jeff, the only thing I would add on this, I mean, I hear you saying he might be standing on the line. I think the other thing is this player doesn't have a good line reference because the logo is kind of obscuring the line where he's at.
Yeah, good point. This probably would be a good warning, a good one to warn on, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree.
But by the book, he is offside. Just wanted to show it.
Yep, agreed.
All right, now never mind what you hear. I think it's Rogers Redding actually doing the announcing.
You can mute the speaker, Jeff.
Oh, well, let it go.
Okay.
It actually might be good. Might confuse everybody.
I think you're on the wrong video. You're on the wrong video.
I know. I'm going back. There we go.
We have a very tight play at the sideline, and of course the question is whether or not the ball went out of bounds. The thing I want to point out, particularly in this play, however, is that the player who recovered the ball actually went out of bounds and then came back in bounds. That's a foul. The kicking team player is not allowed to go out of bounds and then return, and so that's a foul for a player coming back in bounds. It's okay if he goes out of bounds, but he must stay out of bounds, and the foul is for coming back in bounds. So we missed that foul on this play. There's a lot.
Oh, let's do that again there. All right. So now this is the play that caused them to make that edit, actually, in the rule book. Wow, keep on doing that. All right, let's do it again.
Here we have a
So we go to it. Free kick is received. He's running it, fumbles. Okay, and we've got a player from the kicking team who goes out of bounds. And it's hard to see, but he does reestablish with his left foot, did reestablish inbounds, and then he recovers the ball. So a few years ago, this would have been a foul for a player of the kicking team voluntarily going out of bounds and coming back in. We should have had first a hat down, ideally, and then a flag when he came back in. Obviously, it happened pretty quickly. It would have been tough to get those down in that order. Now, though, this is not a foul, because this occurred during the return. So Team A would have legally possessed the ball.
Bounds, but he must stay out of bounds, and the foul.
All right, and now we're going to get an NFL play, which is kind of interesting to watch. Rules for us will be different, but let's take a look. Now, this goes to what I was talking about earlier, where a lot of times when you get a ball that's bouncing around the goal line, receiver isn't quite sure what to do. The kicking teams rushing them hard, and they can't decide if they should grab the ball or not. Is a prime example. Now, in this case, though, the ball does end up hitting the goal line untouched by Team B. So for us at the NCAA rule level, that ball's dead as soon as it hits the ground in the end zone, right? That would have been dead right there. Now, just for argument's sake, let's say the ball didn't break the plane of the goal line and was there, and the player has a foot out of bounds, reaches for it. That would have been a smart thing to do. That would have been a foul for a kick out of bounds, right? This is no different than if he straddled the sideline and grabbed the ball untouched by another player, Team B, it would have been a kick out of bounds. So just interesting to note, but our rules are different. All right.
On this play, what we're going to see is both a wedge formation in the front end and back end of the formation. So starting on the back end right at the -45, we're going to see two players come together shoulder to shoulder, and that creates a wedge formation. That is a foul. But also in the front end of the formation, you're going to see two players drop back in at the +45. They come together shoulder to shoulder to block, and both of these would be considered a foul under our new rule.
Now, the only thing I'll say about this one is I think the block up front, the wedge up front, I'm not too sure that's intentional, that they're getting shoulder to shoulder intentionally. I mean, you could argue it and say it is. Definitely the one closer to the runner is definitely an illegal wedge because they're actually grabbing their arms together and getting ready to go and block. But the one up front, I'm not as convinced. But anyway, you get a good look at what an illegal wedge block would look like. All right, got to throw in the block below the waist. Okay, we got it right there. Right at the point of attack. I think we can all see that and agree that is illegal. Even though the player's hands are on him, it looks to me like he's starting off low. It's not like he started high and the player pushed him down. He started low. It's an illegal block below the waist. All right. Any questions?
Nothing that we haven't addressed, Jeff.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. What's that?
I'll turn it back over to you, buddy.
Yeah. I think we're wrapped up here. I want to thank everybody for attending tonight. Next week we'll be doing very similar presentation on passing game and common passing plays and penalty enforcement. So please plan to join in. We are recording these so that you will be able to get them replayed and watch them at your convenience as well. So thanks again, everybody, for joining tonight.